Keyan.
Hey, George. How are y'all? How are you doing?
I'm doing real good.
Right on, right on. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of our weekly broadcast, Making Sense with Move to Amend. Move to Amend, we are the coalition that is working to amend the U.S. Constitution to unequivocally state constitutional rights belong to human beings, not corporations, and that money is not a form of protected speech so that it can actually be regulated in our political process. For our focus, we in our movement building work, we prioritize and centralize the dismantling of a system of oppression that corporate rule has long depended on. And here on this show, we seek to connect the dots between the nature of corporate power, its systems of oppression, and all the issues of struggle that we care so deeply about here today. My name's Keyan Bliss. I'm the grassroots director for the Move to Amend Coalition, and my friend and colleague here is
George Friday. Mm-hmm. I'm on the leadership team of Move to Amend, and I am a founding member.
Yep. Absolutely. We've been doing this work for a minute. And we are here to talk about a few things that basically on current events, what we've seen here over the past week or longer that related to corporate rule that's caught our attention. And this month, we are entering into, of course, Black History Month. And there have been a few big anniversaries that have come up that are particularly important and present to Move to Amend. One of those is on February 2nd. We had the Dartmouth College versus Woodward court decision, which turned a corporate charter from a government-granted privilege into a contract that cannot be altered by government. So basically the word corporation, even though the word corporation does not appear anywhere in the Constitution, this ruling back in February 2nd, 1819, gave the corporation standing in the Constitution, and also making it difficult for the government to control corporations because so states began to write controls into the charters they were granted. But the Supreme Court, naturally, its business friendliness, found the corporation in the Constitution, and states began to loosen property requirements for white males to obtain voting and citizenship rights on this day.
What year is this again, Keyan?
This is back in 1819, more than 200 years ago, 202 years ago.
Okay. You said there were other things coming up or other anniversaries? Anyone that is not infuriating?
Well, absolutely. Actually, one was, depending on your understanding of history, the 15th Amendment was ratified this week on February 3rd, 1870, which gave Black men the right to vote, and unfortunately wasn't encompassed with all an equal right to vote. In fact, there's a unique history behind that. George, do you want to share in on that? I'm happy to go into it, but
no, I'm doing well not to throw shit right now, so I'm just gonna stay zen. You're gonna speak. It's gonna be fun.
Right on. No worries. So funny story about the 15th Amendment. It was one of the it was a great example of how the ruling establishment that controls both Democrats and Republicans, two sides of the same coin, into creating a wedge issue, which basically split the abolitionist movement from the women's suffrage movement in order to basically give one side, men of color, the right to vote, while denying it for women and other people. Before that, the abolitionist movement and the suffragist movement was actually lockstep, walking toward demanding an equal right to vote. Unfortunately, the ruling powers that be decided to create a wedge issue and co-opt their language, basically saying, we're willing to give Black men the right to vote or women the right to vote, but it can't have both, basically.
Right. So, let's think about how that pattern back in 18, what was it, Keyan?
It was 1870.
Okay, so 1870, wedge issue between the suffragettes and the abolitionists. Power control scheming on the part of mostly white men to maintain power and control. So, do you imagine there's any human being with, good functioning brain cells that doesn't realize that we have in motion in this country a system preferenced to maintain power and control within the hands of a tiny bit of people, tiny number of people, not just their toes or their knees, but a small number of people, usually of the same race and gender. So what's the problem? Why haven't we fixed this? 1870, 2021, and we're still like, maybe there's something we need to do about systemic inequality. Maybe. And do you imagine? I'm just expecting you to be Mr. Sunshine and Optimism here.
Right.
Do you imagine? Well, there are heaps of voters who are like, oh God, Trump's out of office. We got Biden now. Holy, everything's gonna be fine. Just like they thought Obama was Jesus Christ. So, do you imagine the new administration may do anything that will help us to move from this clearly well practice of creating wedge issues, maintaining power and control among a small number of elites? You think we're going to get even a half step? Are we even going to lift a foot up in the right direction, Keyan?
Mm-hmm.
You think, yeah?
I honestly, I don't. Yeah. I have no faith in that. Let's be real. Like, the people that have gotten us into this mess, that are part of the establishment and that created this system, are really not going to be the ones to save us and get us out of that. I think it's really going to depend upon we, the people, standing up and really taking ownership to force them to do operate and represent our best interests, our shared interests, which include more than just wealthy white male property owners. There are a lot of we're seeing that power in action where over the course of last year, on the campaign trail, we saw a record number of progressive upstarts, coming in to really challenge the establishment of both parties, especially in the Democratic circles, and even if I personally had no expectation that, a lot of these progressives like Bernie Sanders would have really been able to overturn that establishment. Because let's be real, the game has been rigged from day one in favor of those that prioritize property and profits above all else.
And keeps getting validated again and again and again, over and over again.
But the more we turn out and the more that we have participated, which last year was record turnouts, we haven't seen this many people turn out since the early 1900s. The fact that we turned out so hard, it made it that much harder for them to just do business as usual and stay and kowtow to the same status quo. Which is why, and now, seeing the power of Black voters, particularly Black women voters, really delivering these races to the Democrats, we're going to see, there's a lot of promises that were made that they need to keep if they're going to keep that support going. And that's the thing, right? Because when people refuse to turn out and have no faith that the political process actually represents them, or they have an authentic or significant say in it, they're not going to bother with it. And then we end up consigning ourselves to the worst possible scenario. And that's not good for Democrats because they need us to turn out. We've seen that all too well. So it would,
Also, we need to think about, or someone needs to think about, not me. Um, I'm happy to think about how we get progressive candidates elected and progressive voters. I have no love for trying to think about the Democratic Party in a positive way.
Mhm.
But, here we are. But
Right.
if we are to stave off the next wedge, the next attack on voting power, and we know that Black women made a big difference, what are they going to do to try to create wedges between, to discount the Black female voting? I don't know. But somebody's thinking on it right now. They're not going to win if they try to fracture the queer community in the Black female world, because we ain't having it. And I don't even think they can try to fracture that in women of faith in the Black community around issues of gender and sexual identity. Again, we're past it. Kiss my ass. But, they'll find something. And it may be worthwhile for us to think about it in terms of protecting our political vote and power, and to think about where we get better votes. Florida, when in Florida, people with felony convictions can vote. That's huge. Huge.
Right.
We got to get that in more places.
Right.
Because that makes a difference that those elites can't fix. They can't, you can't go back there. You can't go back. That's why they're not going to be able to, I think, this is just me, I could be wrong, but I think that's why they can't fracture the power of Black women voters, because we ain't having it. And I hope that if we got more states to allow people who have, gotten out of prison, served their time, done their parole, they're cool, that they can vote. It's just crazy that they can't. So there we go.
Yeah.
And then if the immigration laws become real and people who live here and pay taxes and have been here get to vote, they can shut up. Wouldn't that be lovely? Why are you laughing, Keyan? Am I saying things that don't make sense?
No, not at all. I think it's refreshing.
I haven't done, if there's people on here watching, no, I haven't done a gag of research or, or done or read your article or whatever, book you're talking about. No, this is just me speaking.
Right. We're like this, we are members of Move to Amend's national team, and, we are our nonpartisan coalition. We're willing to work with anybody that shares our values and agrees with us the need to really make sure that we, the people, actually rule and are represented by our government, and not just wealthy corporate interests that are focused on making as much money as possible.
There's got to be some people in the Republican Party that agree that the Constitution is not serving us in 2021. They might not think it sucked in 1776 like I do, or 1787 or 1789 or 18 whatever. They might have thought it was the shit back then, but 2021, please, come on, y'all.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think there is we're seeing some of those principled Republicans, and conservative Democrats really stepping up to really come down and realize is we don't have power separate from the people that we serve. We are the Constitution actually does mean something, and and we're seeing more of those folks step up, and we've seen that over the years too. Move to Amend, when we first introduced the We the People Amendment in the second session, we reintroduced, we were the first amendment proposal that got bipartisan support with a Republican co-sponsor.
And we've gotten, resolutions and passed in majority Republican towns as well. So it's not like it's a partisan issue. Even though as a whole package, it does feel progressive.
Right. As recently as 2018,
because it's about we the people. As recently as when, Keyan?
As recently as 2018, polling has consistently shown that like 80% of the public, whether they were Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, or Green, or Independent, agreed with us that corporations shouldn't have the same rights as human beings, and that money should be regulated in our political process. And we have, while we pay a lot of attention at at the federal level, of what's going on, really, I mean, the important thing to highlight is like the local down ballot races, the state races. Those are where the real power tends to reside, and where people really should put their attention to. And we've gotten, when we go to the grassroots level, we see common agreements among, regardless of where people lie within the political spectrum. That's why in 2016, the year that Trump was elected to office, one of the a Republican party in the in Iowa County of Pottawatomie not only endorsed the We the People amendment, but actually changed its party platform to call for the abolition of corporate constitutional rights. Because at the end of the day, as long as corporations have the same inalienable rights as you and me, and that their money is considered a form of protected speech, they can afford to assert their interests, their rights, better than any human being or our communities, simply through sheer concentration of wealth. And that expressly infringes upon our inalienable right to self-governance, because we can't actually be a self-governing people when these artificial entities created by state law can just drown out our voices and override our decisions through the courts.
So I can't see a chat or anything, and I don't know if anybody's written in it, but this week the I don't know who it was because I'm not in it that well, but I do know it may have been last week that people on Reddit screwed over the hedge fund people. I would love if we could do a similar thing when it comes to corporate rule. Turn it on its head, but I don't know how we could do that. We could, I don't think we can drive hedge fund people into the poorhouse, because it does require investing something. And, when your balance is $35 in your account, you can't really do much investing. So, but that was really great to hear. Hedge fund people feeling cornered.
Right. I mean,
it's a lovely moment. It's only a moment. It would be so much better if it could be sustained long enough that they cry, auntie or uncle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the same game that Wall Street has been playing with that devastates communities and households for generations was really turned on them and used against them.
Only for a minute. They couldn't even handle it.
Right.
It's like, come on. This is like one day out of your overly indulged, overprivileged life, and you can't handle it. It's too much. It's just too much.
Right. I mean, we are turning, when we turn out in power and work together as communities, we really can flip the script and turn things around. And folks, we have examples here within our movement of folks that are working on hard on that. Places like Alaska moved to amend. Were places like Alaska, where they were able to get ranked choice voting. As well as pass a resolution, concerning the restraints on dark money.
Do you remember where?
It was in Alaska, the state. Not only
statewide.
Yeah, they approved.
Well, that's fantastic.
Ranked voting, and a resolution was passed in Alaska to restrain dark money spending. So we can do. I don't
really love the term there, dark money, but I do understand the concept.
Right. I agree. When we turn out like this, we really can affect we really can affect
you think that was a ballot measure, Keyan?
That's a good Alaska. Question. Maybe they can fill that in. I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure it was a ballot measure. I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. that's not the only place that now has ranked choice voting. Maine had ranked choice voting finally got to use that power in the 2020 presidential elections for the first time. So it's a growing movement when people really are coming out to show up, and I have a lot of friends who, question whether it's even worth it to engage within voting or participating within the system, because they view just the vote as an endorsement of the existing system, which has never represented them, particularly women and people of color.
That.
But if the thing is, that I always try to point out is if our vote, if our participation didn't matter, they wouldn't try so hard to keep us from
using it.
Right.
Right?
I think there was a quote from Ta-Nehisi Coates back in 2016 that really resonated with me when talking about people who didn't want to vote for Hillary Clinton, or Trump, and didn't see a viable option. It's like, well, by not voting, you're basically consigning yourself to the worst possible scenario.
Right.
Even when you're not choosing, you're choosing.
You're choosing.
So it's if there's an option to even voice your support, no matter how minor or insignificant that may be, you might as well do it, because otherwise you're just
run for local office,
right? As
school board, dog catcher. Water board. Democracy is a verb.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do to support and maintain community power where you live, in your neighborhood, in your town? Because there's something going on. What's your school board making young people learn? What's the history syllabus look like? Columbus discovered America in your county. Oh, really? And there's no alternative to that, a lie? So there's lots of ways to create conditions where people get to realize and make use of their own power and their own voice.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're annoyed about what's going on, what small thing can you do to make a change? Right. And then do it. Seriously.
True story. I mean, that's really all it is. One of my guiding quotes is like, when you find yourself in hell, keep going. Or basically, are you going to stop there and just sit and just suffer with the conditions that are around you? Or going to keep moving to find some shelter from the storm, so to speak. So
wow.
We need find
yourself in hell, keep going. Keyan, that is really doing something to my brain right now.
I think I butchered the quote a bit. I think it's like, if you find yourself going through hell, keep going.
Going through hell. Okay.
Right.
If it's just on the way, I would speed up. Speed up.
Right. Speed this up.
Yeah.
Oh yes, but just to clarify too about Alaska, yes, it was ballot measures that approved this, which is a really one of the most democratic forms of making policy decisions.
Yes, it is.
So,
and not as difficult as you imagine organizing to get a ballot measure, both if it's in your town or your state. I mean, it does take work. Got to collect signatures and whatnot, but it really isn't, as daunting as you might find. It's worth trying stuff before, you feel miserable and sit down.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not so fun being miserable and sitting down. Right.
Well, there are a lot of people that aren't taking it lying down, and like we mentioned earlier, there were a record number of progressive first-time candidates that were running for office last year that ended up winning. One of them was Missouri's newest Congress member, Cori Bush, who has who's been making the most of her election and really speaking truth to power and calling out directly on the floors of Congress white supremacy that has been rooted in every institution that the United States has created since its inception. And we need more voices like that. We have the AOCs and Elon Omars that are coming up, but also we need to see those kind of candidates running for city council, for county boards and commissions and stuff like that.
Right.
School boards, especially. And here in Sacramento, we're on that too. I don't know the reputation of California and Sacramento, out in places like North Carolina, but we oftentimes get props as one of the most progressive cities, but when you actually live here, you'll realize that there's nothing really progressive about our elected offices here. But there are candidates that have been winning. To really actually get a genuine voice that represents and is accountable to honest people. One of those is my newest district or my city council member, Katie Valenzuela, who beat a longtime incumbent, who was really good friends with the political establishment here in Sacramento, and she's honestly made city council meetings what I never thought I would feel, actually riveting, because she is openly challenging the status quo and really bringing hard questions to her fellow council members that for a long time, ever since I've lived here in Sacramento, they really have never talked openly about.
Wow.
It's been really impressive. Just on January 19th, there was a meeting about our city police's response to white supremacist protesters like the Proud Boys and other and pro-Trump rallies that have been popping up since the election every weekend. And while the police, predictably just put out a propaganda video that basically just presented a very one-sided, biased view of the protest that equated anti-fascist protesters, which they dub Antifa, as if it's a singular organization that has any kind of central leadership, with a known hate group, a well-known hate group like the Proud.
They put them on the same level.
Yeah, they equated them in this video, and city council members were all but ready to just go along with that until city council member Katie brought up a video that was shared publicly on social media that by an independent media outlet that basically juxtaposed the SAC PD's response that wasn't included in their presentation with the response to anti-racist protesters that rose up after George Floyd's murder. And it was 20 minutes of video that utterly dismantled every talking point and propaganda piece that an hour-long video that the city police had put on there, and that city council members were absolutely taken back by, because they had never seen that response from SAC PD. Literally them marching in full riot gear against unarmed protesters as they were running away, shooting tear gas and rubber bullets at them. And I had friends that were in those protests who were seriously injured. One of them was shot 3 times in the head, once with a tear gas canister, and had to have surgery to repair a skull fracture. And there was no accountability whatsoever from city police or that, and the old council before our newest council members came on. And there are 2 now. There are 2 solidly progressive women of color that are now representing key districts, and they're not.
How many council members do you have total?
We have 8 city council members plus the mayor, putting 9 people on the council. And usually they've been.
So besides those 2 awesome new people, who are other potential awesome people that can be supported by, SAC folks to shift to the right side of things? Because if you don't, turn at least another 2 people, so you've got 4. It would be better if you had 5, but at least 4, so that those 2 are not marginalized and demonized, because that can happen quickly, and then nobody takes them seriously, and then they lose next time. But if you get another couple, plus the people show up at city council meetings, comment on the Zoom links or the chat when they're city council meetings on chat. Make sure there is mass community support for these two council members so that nobody else on that council, especially the weak ones who haven't come out as progressive, and there's at least one or two people who know what's good. They know better, but they're too afraid to stand up. And they might be white, and oh my goodness, am I gonna align myself with these black women? Am I gonna align myself with? It's just so hilarious what happens with people. But the Sacramento population can force, good things by making 2 or 3 people join these two sisters and push for some changes in Sacramento. And of course, everyone today who's with us can do these same kind of changes, starting with your city council, or if you're in a rural place like I am, county commissioners, or whatever the body that has the political power. And if it's small enough that you can make a difference, if you've got a 6, 9, 11 member council, you only need 2, 3, 4 really dependable, solid human beings to shift that. It doesn't have to be a majority. If you've got enough solid human beings backed by people cramming that city council space every time they can, or these days getting on Zoom and being relentless to tell the people who are stupid to shut up. Every time those regressive, oppressive people start chatting on the Zoom thing, getting the chat or talking, some blowhard, how I might sound like that now, but forgive me. When they start doing that on the Zoom in your city council meeting, you get in the chat, a bunch of you, and you go, shut up, you're wrong, get away. You got no right to speak. You have no morals. You have no ethics. You do not speak for us. Shut up and sit down.
Well,
would that be fun? I'm sorry, now I don't live in Sacramento. It's pretty bad. We don't even have a 25% of somebody we can say is going to be doing the right thing. Although we can push them under the umbrella of faith because they claim to be people of faith. Oh, you do? So what would Jesus say about what you said today? That's about all you can do to them is, call Jesus on them, which is not without some, results and benefit, but it's just kind of tough.
Right. I mean, we're like, at the end of the day, we are mobilizing here a grassroots movement and really showing up for these meetings, because that's where a lot of the key decisions are made. And back to, the point of even when you don't choose, you choose, as mind-numbing as they can be. And I have sat through a lot of city and county board meetings that are just atrocious, full of gaslighting and absolutely triggering.
They last for hours and hours and work your last nerve.
Right. But it really doesn't take that many people to really spark a sea change within that. And I'm already seeing with just a month since these new council members were seated, a significant shift in the tone of the city. And a lot of these comfortable incumbents that were, kowtowing and making decisions that were beneficial to their corporate real estate developer friends and corporate donors, actually having to take serious public positions. Just last week, actually, there was we had our mid-year budget fight. Or mid-year budget discussion where we come up with a plan for how we adjust our spending, given the current circumstances we have under COVID. And these two new council members challenged the establishment, the status quo that was just going to throw some money in a particularly pressing area, affordable housing, because we've had a housing crisis here in Sacramento for a number of years that city and county have literally done nothing about. And a solidly strong proposal was put forward that forced a level of transparency that I have not seen in local city council meetings or local politics. I can't remember. when I saw such transparency. Like, we were seeing horse trading and political scheming by these established electeds that normally happens in back rooms away from public eyes. And that wouldn't have happened if people didn't show up and call this out and directly challenge these. No matter how, like, even though it ended up ultimately losing, it put them on record and really highlight and really forced them to take to show where their true allegiances lie. And a lot of these elected officials that have been in there for a number of years ended up like showing that they really don't have as much respect for their constituents as they claim to do publicly. Which is why I'm of the mind to always remind people, take people at their actions, not at their words. You know, actions speak much louder than our words. And
absolutely.
But
you can try to hold them to their word. Right. When they say something like, you know, I'm a Christian and I care about people who don't have homes, and then you vote against, you know, protecting people without homes, you can then say, well, wait a minute, remember what you said over here? But, you know, it doesn't necessarily go that far. There's a good thing happening in Charlotte, which is 20 miles from me. And I can't remember the name of the organization. I think they're national, but they're dealing with people who are houseless by buying houses, by actually giving a house. They've got the statistics that prove that if you go in and help people with, you know, you give them mental health services and physical health services, and you give them a place to stay for a short time and some money to try to get it together, but they don't have a house. All of that money doesn't have the kind of outcome that you want. You're better off giving people who need a house. Right. Which is fantastic. It was great to hear about that program. I'm so glad it's happening, at least in one city in my state. We'll see how it goes. I'll share any good information about it. Yeah.
Shout out to Lawrence Abbott and East Bay folks. They have one of their city councils in San Leandro's also had new members that are shifting the balance of power to we the people, just like Charlotte, just like Sacramento. And
maybe good things will happen. Maybe they start small and snowball. We will stay positive. Are there any great things on the horizon for Move to Amend in the coming months?
Absolutely. Want to give a quick shout out to Megan Shumway and Sacramento Move to Amend for helping to pass the climate emergency declarations in our city, county, and local utility, a locally publicly owned utility, not the private corporate utility that's PG&E that caused all the worst wildfires in California history, including the Camp Fire.
So what is that climate emergency declaration? What does it do?
From what I understand, it basically makes states that climate change is a existential threat and emergency, and opens up the city and county and its publicly owned utility, I think, to take emergency measures to basically address the worst impacts and mitigate for the damage.
Fantastic! Wow,
that's great. But in terms of what's happening here at Move to Amend, we have a lot of exciting things to go on, particularly at the national level, where we have our Congress to Amend campaign, where we're really targeting the 117th Congress to reintroduce and fully co-sponsor the We the People Amendment. Last year, we were able to secure 75 co-sponsors, reaching our goal by the end of 2020 to get 75 co-sponsors in the House, which is within our strategic plan's benchmark goals. And right now, between now and the end of March, we're looking to get all of our previous co-sponsors signed back on. And our goal for this year is at least 100 co-sponsors, 25 new co-sponsors in the House to support the We the People Amendment when it is introduced. So those of us on staff and on the national leadership team and our grassroots advocates and affiliates are working hard to schedule line up those co-sponsors for when it is reintroduced. We're hoping that it gets reintroduced sometime this month or early in March, but we're well on our way. We are lining up a number of our grassroots leaders, as well as new volunteers, leaders, stepping up in communities where we don't have a presence at the moment, to recruit 3 to 5 constituents to schedule meetings with their local or with their Congress members. Offices to ask them to co-sponsor the We the People Amendment, which right now we're aiming to get HJR 48 again. So that's what we're waiting for it to be reintroduced. But right now, between the now and March 31st, we are pulling out all the stops. So if you are interested in pressuring your Congress member to support the We the People Amendment in the House, contact us. Go to movetoamend.org/117 campaign and find all the instructions and resources you need to schedule and recruit constituents to ask your Congress member, will they join Move to Amend and We the People to support the We the People Amendment at HJR 48 when it's reintroduced.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that folks do that because we can really make a difference this year. And folks can support us in any number of ways. You can start an affiliate if you're not part of one. You can join us if you haven't joined yet. You can support us with a monthly donation, which is the best way for financial support. Mm-hmm. Even $5 or $10 a month is needed, welcome, and very, very used and useful.
Yep.
So if, let's say I want to talk to a friend about Move to Amend, Keyan, and I want to help them understand how ridiculous and blatant it is that corporations have so much power and control. Recently, a friend asked me about that. I told him, and we had a conversation about Medicare. I told him to watch Bullworth and then get back to me because I didn't want to have the conversation. Not that it's a hard conversation to have. To me, it's a no-brainer. Corporations, people? Come on. But, it was the whole thing. So since the conversation with that person was about Medicare and Medicaid, have you seen Bullworth, Keyan?
It's been a while, but I remember.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, because it probably came out not long after you were born, but it's a classic, and it really underscores, especially when it comes to, pharmaceuticals. Yep. But what would you say to somebody? How would you let somebody know, this is really important? Unfettered corporate rule leaves us, as the longer, the long-term vision is not good. The prognosis in 12 to 20 years with corporations gone crazy is really, really dismal. Mm-hmm. So what would you say to somebody?
I would first and foremost, I would just point out how much corporate power directly impacts us within our everyday lives. For example, when we go to the grocery store, like any average grocery store, whether that's Kroger's, whether that's Safeway, whether that's Publix, we 99% of what we see on the store aisles comes from just about 10 corporations or so. When we are going to the bank to deposit our paychecks, or to kick out loans, more than half of our nation's wealth is controlled by just 10 mega financial institutions like JP Morgan Chase and Citi and all that. And when we turn on the TV or listen to the radio, 90% of what we read, watch, and listen to is coming from just 5 mega corporations that provide that. CBS, NBC, CNN, all all these corporations owning and consolidating every aspect of our daily lives, so that we basically creating not just monopolies but cartels that collaborate together to suppress locally owned small businesses that are just trying to get a start and provide not just for their families but for their communities. And as long as and as long as this power is concentrated in just such a few hands, we, the people, cannot effectively organize or govern ourselves without their say so, basically. I mean, even at the local level, when a mega corporation threatens a lawsuit against against a city that's trying to pass an ordinance to balance the playing field and help locally owned businesses, they are just the threat of a lawsuit creates a chilling effect where even the most progressive city council member or county commissioner will balk and remove the legislation no matter how much popularity it has. So it kind of goes back to what I said earlier, whereas as long as corporations are able to use the same rights as human beings and their money is considered speech, they can afford to assert their rights and interests better than any human being or our communities, making it nearly impossible for us to not only govern ourselves, but for the law to be applied equally to all people. And that's why we, the people, need to really step up and challenge this system because, and I know I'm kind of being long-winded at the moment, but a lot of what we're dealing with right now, as you pointed out earlier, is the same conversations we've been having since the abolitionist period, since the suffragist movement, since the trade unionist movement, labor movement and such. We have continuous to have these conversations because the wealthy ruling corporate owning establishment has long controlled every aspect of our culture and the political discourses that we have. And they depend upon these arbitrary social divides along race, gender, and class, which seek to segregate our communities and have us fighting and competing amongst each other so that we are small, easily to small communities that aren't paying attention to what's going on above them, and it makes it easy for a small handful of privileged folks to control and manipulate us and exploit our labor and our processes and our resources. And so that's why too Move to Amend centralizes anti-oppression work and calls for the need for solidarity organizing and working to dismantle oppression, not just as part of our campaign to create a genuine democracy, but actually is our campaign to create an authentic democracy that centralizes the voices of those that have been traditionally left out, particularly women, Black and Indigenous people of color, Latinx people, queer and trans people, and even less impoverished white people, and as well as people migrating here to the United States, immigrants and the undocumented.
We do. Mm-hmm. That's some real work. But that's what it takes to build the power to change a system that has been doing its thing for hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. Let's not be crazy. Let's not think we can transform a system hundreds of years old in a short period of time with a small group of people. We need a mass movement. We need to make sure we have the skills to outreach and communicate effectively with people who are absolutely not in your comfort zone.
Right. We don't grow as I'm a firm believer that we as a human beings do not grow and develop our thinking or our analysis sitting in a place of complicity or complacency.
Or comfort.
We have to step outside of our comfort zone, really examine with a critical eye and question those orthodoxies and and preconceived notions that we imbibed from our schooling, from our family upbringings and cultural environments, in order for us to really take stock of what we are we're currently dealing with and examine whether we can do that better. And we can. We are seeing that that now, and it really doesn't take as massive a movement as we need. It really doesn't take a huge proportion of the population in order to make revolutionary change possible. In fact, the theory, you only need about.
You got 2 women on the city council making shit happen in Sacramento. If they get another 2, if the community backs them, who knows what things look like in 18 months, in 2 years. And that's what, you want to think about. We also can't bust into someone else's space thinking we have all the answers.
Right.
So exactly. we have to put ourselves in places that are not our comfort zone. We have to build relationships of equity and inclusion with people to the point where they start looking out for. So why are you so excited about the work that you do? What is it? Move to a man. Tell me about that. That's your time that you say to folks, well, these corporations here that are, keeping our water quality crazy and creating that waste treatment plant over there. Well, here's what's up. And there you go. Because there are such continued acts of heinous corporate rule all over the place that creates many opportunities for you to initiate the conversation, because they're dumping somewhere, they're doing horrible things to communities of color, they're doing all horrible things with the prices of medication, or they're evicting people, or they're trying to pass laws. And all of those are opportunities to challenge their power and build our own power for change.
Absolutely. And we at Move to Mend have a number of resources to really help make those inroads with those communities, as well as help develop your training as grassroots organizers, such as through our free curriculum, the movement education program. This program addresses the way corporatism, racial capitalism, and white supremacy, patriarchy, and related oppressive structures impact our grassroots organizing, and it offers alternatives to consider as we work for justice, helping to provide analysis, historical perspective, and exercises for individual activists and organizers, as well as group organizations. In this the latest iteration of this program, if you go to movetomend.org/education, is a self-paced course. So anybody, whether you're an active advocate for Move to Mend, or an affiliate group, or just a everyday supporter that's just learning about Move to Mend, you can sign up for this course for free and learn, and develop your skills and capacity to become an effective organizer that can reach across and build solidarity with communities on the front lines of struggle against corporate rule. Just go to movetomend.org/education, check out the curriculum, and sign up and participate at your own pace. And by the end of the course too, whether you're an individual or group, we will help you create written guides, plans for how for the issues that you want to focus in on that are related to corporate rule, and how to and identify the communities that you want, like a solidarity outreach plan, as well as how to govern your groups in a genuinely democratic manner, that's has horizontal leadership and shares the burden of leadership with an internal democracy agreement. So highly encourage you. Check out our movement education program at movetomend.org/education.
Wow. So at the top of our visit here, Keyan, I mentioned going online. It's a movement education program. I may have been looking at an older one. But I still think that PBS abolition part 1 thing was pretty awesome. And I want to see part 2 as well, because the William Lloyd Garrison and the John Brown characterizations on it were really spot on and very good. Although, what did you say? It was Kansas blood?
Bleeding Kansas.
Bleeding Kansas. Yeah. Ick. But, I still think it's worthwhile. And I'm going to check out the new iteration in case that wasn't what I saw. It may have been.
Yeah, you can, anybody that's interested in seeing our past iterations, because this is something we've been developing as far back as 2015, and have a number of additional readings that have been in there. And we those are still prescient even today. So highly encourage folks to check out our website. If you go to movetomend.org/education3, you can actually see the old iteration of that, and it also links directly to the newest iteration too. So you can,
good.
Track
I'm gonna have to check that out. I'm looking forward to it. And it's not overwhelming work. It's helpful and necessary work. If you are fed up with how things are and you want it different, it's going to take some level of education. If you are a person who is not a person of color, not someone who's dealt with chronic oppression, then it's absolutely essential that you do the movement education. You might believe in your heart and know in your heart that your intentions are great. You read the right books, you vote for the right people, you watch the right TV shows. You share the best memes on Facebook. White supremacy is in your subconscious. And unless you have learned how to identify it, how to speak about it without shame and blame to other people like you, you will not be an effective organizer outside of your own community as much as you want to, and as great as your intentions may be. That's not an attack. It's not an assault. It is fact. So do your work. We all do our work that we have to do to be part of this work and movement as a whole. That's part of yours. If it's not movement education, it's something similar. But check out the movement education because it gives you an idea. So we're supposed to be done, I think, in 4 minutes.
Pretty much.
I do want to tell people one more time.
Yep.
$5 or $10 a month donate button on the website. It's not overwhelming to give at that level, $5 or $10 a month, but it makes a huge difference for us, and we really need it. So please do that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, go to movetoamend.org/donate to make a one-time donation, or to make a monthly sustainer donation to help continue to support this movement however you can. And also,
tell me what the 117 campaign is.
The 117.
I should know it. I should know what it is. I didn't do my homework.
It's the Congress to Amend campaign where we're where folks
got to get more co-sponsors,
sign up and help us reach our goal of 100 co-sponsors in the House.
At least 100.
At least.
All right.
So definitely, again, sign up for that. And I see Dawson White has a question of where is the movement education program located. Go to movetoamend.org/education. And you will find it right there, and you can sign up for free wherever you want. And always too, anybody and everybody can share our motion to amend, our national petition supporting the We the People amendment that's garnered already over 475,000 signatures. So go to movetoamend.org/motion, share it on your Facebook pages, your Twitter accounts, your Instagrams, and just by text from your friends, with your friends and family. Because the more people that are putting this pressure on, the more powerful our message is when we go to Congress asking them to co-sponsor. Because as we have heard multiple times talking with our congressional reps, they want to hear from their constituents that they want them to support this. So share the petition, call their offices, do everything you can to make sure they know you want them to support the people and make clear corporations are not people and money is not speech. Nice.
Do we know who's going to be here next week?
I'm not sure here who is going to be on.
But y'all come back next week, same time. It'll be 2 more Move to Amend folks.
It'll actually be looking
Greg
here.
and Millie.
Yep.
Greg and Millie, our staff people. Greg is our what are people's titles? I may say it wrong.
Greg is our outreach director, and Millie is our outreach coordinator, and helps us as well with our development team as well. So they're going to be great. Tune in. It'll be just before Lincoln's. It'll be I think Abraham Lincoln's birthday. So and Greg is very well versed in U.S. history, and I'm sure it'll be a very enlightening, insightful episode with both of them. So tune in next week, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern.
Stay safe. Take care of each other.
Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Take care out there.
All right, then.
Much love.
Bye.